Hello Daily Drafters and welcome to the Murders at Karlov Manor pre-release guide here on the channel designed to get you ready for your pre-release events this weekend. This video will be full of useful information for beginners to seasoned veterans, whether this will be your first ever pre-release or if you're looking for Murders at Karlov Manor specific information to make sure you're on top of your game at your LGS. If you're looking for a deep dive into every draftable archetype and a look at all of the new and returning mechanics, check out my archetype guide with a link in the upper right hand corner visible right now. But for those of you here for the pre-release content, whether you're new here or you've been here a while, stay tuned for the ultimate guide in helping you crush your Murders at Karlov Manor pre-release. Now, some of you might be asking yourself, what exactly is a pre-release? Well, each year there are roughly 4 main set releases of Magic the Gathering products, and most local game stores run what is called a pre-release for each of these main set releases. Essentially, you battle it out against your friends and strangers using several booster packs of the brand new cards for the upcoming set that has yet to be released, hence the name, pre-release. If this sounds interesting to you, let's take a step-by-step look at exactly how these events are run. Step 1. Locate your local game store. In order to participate in a pre-release event, you will need to locate one. If you do not already have a local game store that you frequent, I've included a link in the description to a website that will help you find a game store running a pre-release event near you. Now that you've found where you'll be participating, it's time to get registered. Usually stores will run events all weekend, maybe one on Friday, 2 on Saturday, and 1 on Sunday. Check with your LGS to see when the events are happening and which ones you would like to attend. Be sure to note that sometimes these events do fill up fast, so you may need to pre-register to ensure you have a spot. It just depends on your store. Other times you can just walk in and register on the spot. Be sure to find out what's best for your situation. Now that you're registered, it's time for the fun part. When it's time to start the event, you will get handed a pre-release kit like the ones on your screen now. For this set, there is only one pre-release kit that you can receive. In other sets, sometimes you have a choice, but for Murders at Karlov Manor, we've got just the one. Now that you've got your kit, when the event begins, you will be instructed to open your kit and begin your deck build. It varies from store to store, but usually you will have about 50 minutes or so to build your deck and get ready for your matches. Let's take a look at what you'll find when you open your kit. Inside you will find one traditional foil rare or mythic rare from Murders at Karlov Manor with a year stamp, and here's an example of what that card might look like using a rare from the last set, Lost Caverns of Ixalan. 6 Murders at Karlov Manor play boosters, 1 of 3 new mythic rare pre-release exclusive cards, 1 20-sided spin down die, and 1 MTG Arena code card. You might notice something slightly unusual included in your kit this time, and you would be correct in that assumption, as the 3 new mythic rare pre-release exclusive cards are new this time around. It is important to note that these 3 cards that you see on your screen right now are not legal to be included in your pre-release deck. I know it seems counterintuitive, but that's just how it is for us this time around. As many of you may be aware, draft boosters are now a thing of the past and are being replaced with play boosters, beginning with this set. This is a potentially huge change for the future of Limited, and I wanted to make sure that you were aware exactly how things are changing. Every play booster will contain a combination of the following: 7 commons, 3 uncommons, 1 rare or mythic rare, 1 wild card of any rarity, and for this set, this wild card will be one of the 10 rare dual lands 17% of the time, and the other 83% of the time it will be a random card of any rarity, 1 foil card of any rarity, and 1 basic land. Also, in 9% of boosters, the 7th common card will be replaced with a common or uncommon card from the list. In 2% of boosters, that list card will be rare or mythic. And in 2% of boosters, you will receive a special guest in place of that 7th common card. All in all, the main difference between the old draft boosters and the new play boosters is the fact that in play boosters, you can get all sorts of fancy foiling treatments, borderless cards, showcase foils, and more, which used to be exclusive to set boosters and collector boosters. Now that set boosters and draft boosters are combined in the form of play boosters, this is where you can find those cards now. These fancy treatments don't mean much for Limited, but there is a higher number of rares and mythics potentially that could show up in your pool as a result. Okay, now where do we go from here? Well, for those of you interested in how the list and the special guests will impact Karlov Manor as a limited format, here is your explanation. As previously mentioned, in 2% of boosters, you will receive one of these 10 special guest reprint cards. These are legal in Karlov Manor Limited and are legal to include in your sealed deck. In an additional 11% of boosters, that 7th common will be replaced with one of these 40 cards from the list. The list is a curated set of reprinted cards meant to enhance the limited play experience and provide better hits for collectors. This list is too long to show the text of every single one of these cards, so if you're truly interested, feel free to pause the video to check out each of these cards individually. Now, if MTG Arena is the primary way that you plan to play this set, there are a couple of changes for you as well. When it comes to the 40 list cards, these 3 cards will be removed from the Arena list and replaced with these other 3 cards. Why? I have absolutely no idea. Additionally, it's unclear exactly what a play booster will look like on MTG Arena, but I assume the only change from paper cards will be the lack of cosmetic bling, and the foil wildcard slot will more than likely just be another random wildcard slot that is not foil. But again, there has been no official statement on this as of this recording. Lastly, because of the change in booster contents and the increase in price of play boosters compared to draft boosters, expect the entry fee for your local pre-release to increase as well. From what I've been seeing, it seems as if the consensus for the majority of local game stores that I frequent has been to increase the cost from $25 to $30. It comes with slightly better odds at making your money back in the value of the cards you have the ability to pull in your play boosters, but just be aware of the likely price increase in your region. Whew, I know that was a lot, but I hope I explained it as neatly and concisely as I possibly could for you. Alright, we now have everything we need to begin our deck build. If you'd like to see an example of a Murders at Karlov Manor sealed deck build, stick around until the next segment where I will build an entire sealed deck on screen for you to follow along with. This is also usually where I plug my participation in the upcoming early access event for this set. However, unfortunately due to the recent budget cuts and layoffs by Hasbro, the early access event for Karlov Manor has been cancelled, and it's unclear if they will resume in the future. After you've built your deck, you will then be assigned an opponent by the event coordinator and you will play out your first match. Different stores will give different amount of matches for the event, but it's usually a minimum of 3. Sometimes you might get lucky and be able to play 4 or more, it just depends. After you've finished your matches, you may qualify for some prizes, so be sure to check with the event coordinator to cash in on your winnings. Now, the hardest part about the whole event is how to build your deck, but great news! I will now go ahead and go through an entire sealed deck build to give you an idea of what you might want to be looking for in your pool of cards and how to maximize your chance of having a competitive deck for the event. But before I do, a quick message from me. Thanks me. Set review season is the perfect time to consider supporting the channel via Patreon. We have several tiers over at the Daily Draft Patreon with rewards including access to my tier lists, early access to content, and lifetime access to the Daily Drafters Discord server. I'm incredibly proud of my continued work on my tier lists, and here's an example of what these tier lists look like for the last set, Lost Caverns of Ixalan. And as you'll see, I use a traditional A through F rating for every single card. I let you know if the card has moved up or down since my last update, and I give you the ability to hover over each individual card for a picture and a clickable link to Scryfall. You'll also get access to my common rankings, my uncommon rankings, and my removal rankings, where I rank every single common, uncommon, and removal spell in the entire format for you. I'm currently working on my Murders at Karlov Manor list, and will have this released to patrons in the Centaur Courser rewards tier as soon as I'm finished, guaranteed before pre-release weekend. If $5 is a bit too rich for your blood, we have $3 and $1 tiers that come with early access to content and lifetime access to the Discord server, a great place to hang out and discuss all the happenings of the brand new set. And if a monetary contribution isn't your speed, a subscription to the channel is always enough. And now, back to the set review content. Alright, let's go ahead and dive into this sealed deck build for Murders at Karlov Manor. Now before I start, I usually get this question on most of my pre-release videos, so I'll go ahead and get it out of the way now. The program, or I guess website that I'm using to do this is called sealeddeck.tech, and I actually generated this pool from draftsim.com. So sealeddeck.tech is where I'm building this pool at, and draftsim.com is where I generated the pool, exported to this deck builder online as well. Now, I don't know if DraftSim has the new play booster thing going on as far as how it generated these packs for me. I don't actually think it does. I don't see any cards from the list in here or anything, so it might be slightly outdated in that your pre-release might be a little bit different, but we've already gone through the differences with play boosters. I'm going to deal with what I have for now and just give you an idea of how I usually build these sealed decks for those of you that have never done this before and need maybe just a little bit of advice on where to start. So the first thing when building a sealed deck, find your rares. Just see what the rares that you've got are and see if they are worth trying to build around and trying to work towards, and if there are any sort of bombs. From what I see so far, well, if I can get these things in the right order here, red-black is looking to be pretty crazy for us. We've got Incinerator of the Guilty, 6 mana 6/6 flying trample that can like plague wind them. Rakdos, Patron of Chaos, 6 mana 6/6 flying trample that can draw cards and make them sacrifice permanents. Judith, which every time you cast an instant or sorcery, you get to either have it gain Death Touch and a lifelink, or you make a 2/2 that pings each opponent twice when it dies. And Grinko's Buzz Crusher, 4 mana 4/4 flying trample. I can't remember the last time I've had this many bombs. Actually, I can. It was 2019, the first Eldraine set. Was it Throne of Eldraine? In my local pre-release, I had the absolute busted green-black deck where I had all of the rares in those two colors. And I sat down and I got like third place out of like 60-something players at that pre-release. And it looks like, based on these rares, I'm going to be playing red-black, and there's probably nothing that can turn me off of that. Now, if you look at your rares, and you see, 2 rare lands that aren't that great, and you just see some stuff that doesn't really work together, this might be a little bit more difficult for you. You're going to have to figure out a way to kind of make the best out of what you've got with your pool. But let's start here by building... There we go. By building what is going to be the base of a red-black deck for me here in this pool. Now, maybe this won't be supported, but I'm pretty sure it probably will. So what do I got over here? I don't have any red, black, gold cards other than the ones I already pulled in here. So let's take a look at black cards here. 1 mana 1/1 deals combat damage to a player. I can mill 2 and it can also pump it. That doesn't seem great. Lead Pipe also doesn't seem great. Slice from Shadows, a very modal removal spell. And somehow, oh, this is just a common. Wow, I ended up with 3 of these. Okay, put that in there. Extract a Confession. So they have to sacrifice a creature, and you can also collect evidence 6 to make them sacrifice their biggest creature. I might not need that looking at the fact that I also have 2 murders in here. So our removal is looking outstanding so far. Unscrupulous Agent, that is a fine enough 2-drop to put in there. Rot Farm Mortipede. 4 mana, 3/4. Whenever 1 or more creature cards leaves your graveyard, it's +1/+0 and menace and lifelink. This is much more like a collect evidence card. Don't know if it'll fit in our deck. Agency Coroner, 5 mana 3/6. You can sack other creatures to draw a card. Maybe. We'll see. Ballista Soccer, 5 mana 3/4 flyer. 6 mana 3/4 flyer. Deals combat damage, I gain a life, and surveil 1, and it also has Disguise. I think Disguise is probably going to just make these cards playable, if I had to guess. Persuasive Interrogators. I don't know how much clues we would end up with, but maybe. And Undercity Eliminator. When it enters the battlefield, I can sacrifice an artifact or creature. When I do, I exile target creature an opponent controls. Well, this works pretty well with like our Unscrupulous Agent and things, so that's probably in there. What about our red cards? I think Felonious Rage is actually pretty good. 1 mana, and you're going to get a 2/2 out of it most of the time. Works really well with the Agent, things like that, so we'll put that in there. I don't know about the Scapegoat, especially in this deck. I don't know about the Mask Maker. Looks like I have 3 of these, and not a ton of Disguise so far. Wow, there's a card called just Knife in this set. 1 mana, as long as it's your turn, equipped creature gets +1/+0 first strike, and it has equip 2. Could also sack it to draw a card. That could be pretty good. There is Shock. Shock is reprinted in this set. Always great. Innocent Bystander. 2 mana, 2/1. Whenever it's dealt 3 or more damage, investigate. It could be a little bit of a curve filler for us. Crime Novelist. Whenever you sack an artifact, that's probably not going to be our deck. Red Herring. Much more aggressive. Probably not for our deck. Person of Interest. 4 mana for a 2/2 and another 2/2. That seems pretty good. You got 2 of those. And Rubble Belt Braggart. 5 mana, 5/5. When it attacks, if it's not suspected, you may suspect it. Seems pretty good. So this is kind of the red-black base that I've got here. I would need to add 3 more cards to this. Wouldn't be any of the gold ones. It would I mean, the curve isn't great. I have these as the 1-drop, but they're kind of like over here. So the curve really isn't that great here. So, you know, I don't think these Mask Makers are going to be very good. I don't think the Crime Novelist would be very good. Sometimes in Sealed, depending on the kind of cards that you get and the quality and or the quantity of cards that you get, you end up not really having a lot of options in certain spots here. But boy, because we've got Rakdos, Judith, Incinerator, like, these are reasons to have a bad curve. If you land any one of these cards, the game is pretty much over at that point. I don't think we need these expensive things here, so I'd probably fill out this deck. I mean, I guess I can put Extracted Confession in there as just like get rid of their first creature, 2 mana, kill a creature. Basically, I don't think we have any collect evidence except for this Extracted Confession, so I don't think the Mortipede is going to be very good. I don't think the Lead Pipe is great for us. I mean, I guess the Fester Leech could help fill the curve a little bit. I don't think the Scapegoat is great. And maybe, what do we got? 14 creatures, maybe Knife as well. That would be 23 cards with 17 lands here. This is probably where I would land at my local pre-release if I open this pool. I can check out a couple of other decks here. Maybe red-green. I'm not seeing a lot of great green cards here, though. Hard-hitting Question, decent little removal spell. Tunnel Tipster is a ramp spell. I don't think I really like Airtight Alibi too much. Fanatical Strength seems fine. Pick Your Poison. In Sealed, it might be better. Pompous Gadabout. 3 mana, 4/2, hexproof on your turn and can't be blocked by those mysterious creature 2/2s. Bite Down on Crime is a good removal spell, and the Eavesdropper I don't think is particularly great. Green isn't super great, and we would have to give up on some of these cards. I don't see great ways to splash in our pool either. The Tin Street Gossip can only add red or green, so we can't really splash. You know, Judith or Rakdos. I guess you might be able to, but I don't really see any sort of fixing here that would let us do that, which is kind of irresponsible. I've got a video I posted recently to the channel on how to play more than one color, how to fix, how to play, how to splash, things like that. You can check that out if you're questioning why I wouldn't just splash these cards. If we look over here in blue, my favorite card name in the entire set, a Bubble Smuggler. 2 mana, 2/1's got Disguise, turn face up, put 4/1/1 counters on it. Curious Inquiry, no thanks. Case of the Filched Falcon. I'm not seeing a ton of things that are going to move me off of what I've currently got here. I mean, like I mentioned earlier in this video, you're usually going to have about 50 minutes to build your deck, so you can build multiple different options. I'm going to let you in on a little secret though. Most of the time, your first impression is, or your first instinct is going to be what you're going to go with. Because, I mean, there's a reason I pulled these cards to the bottom. If you had even two of these three or two of these four cards, you probably still want to stick with this, because in sealed, your opponent is probably also going to have opened something like this. And if you didn't, then join the rest of us and the rest of the world in which you don't get to open particularly great pools. All of us Magic players, we're always all unlucky, right? But in the previous sealed builds I've done of other previous pre-release videos I've released, I haven't gotten the greatest of pools and kind of built low to the ground aggro decks, but I'll take a good pool here. Museum Nightwatch I think is a good card. 4 mana 3/2 dies into a 2/2. It's got disguise as well. It only flips over for 2 mana. That's pretty good. Defenestrated Phantom, 6 mana 4/3 flying. I think that's a little clunky. Inside Source has a good bit of synergy in the format. Make your move, Seasoned Consultant. So something you can also do is if you're playing with friends or even just some random people, and if you're new to this and haven't built sealed decks before, you can ask for advice. I mean, people love to give unsolicited advice on your Magic deck, tell you how good and more likely how bad it is. So you can ask for advice on how to do these kind of things as well. But you know what? I'm not really going to waste any more time. I'm going to lock in this deck right here. And I could add, add basic lands here. I don't feel like doing that at this exact moment. I'd probably add, 9 swamps and 8 mountains to get up to 17 lands with this. And this would be the deck I would run at the local pre-release and have high hopes for all of my bomb rares that they could get me there in the end. So, hope you guys have fun this weekend, and hope this video and this deck build helps you out a little bit. Unfortunately, no early access event for this set, so I will be playing with the cards with you for the first time either this weekend or next Tuesday when the set launches on Arena. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We will be drafting at least 3 times a week starting next week. Gonna have a ton of fun with the format, as we always do with every format, drafting 20 plus times. It's a great time. If you like seeing drafts, we got them here at Daily Draft. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. I hope this video was helpful to you and helps you build up the courage needed to participate in a pre-release event at your LGS this weekend. If you've never been to one, I highly recommend it. It's one of the absolute most fun ways to play Magic, and you'll meet tons of different players there. If you do end up going, return back to this video and leave a comment to let me know how it went for you. I'd love to hear feedback from each and every one of you about your event. Thanks so much for sticking around to the end of this video, and I will see you soon here at Daily Draft.